Hello, Crystal here. How are you glowing? It is Monday. Beautiful, beautiful Monday. Mondays are the days we should definitely live for. We should live for every single day, every minute, every hour. Time in life is so precious. It's a very precious gift, and we need to manage it well. Um, so, speaking of time in life, um, I realize that in these days, like anxiety and doubt, worry, fear, FOMO, fear of missing out, procrastination, all of these things are becoming heaviness to people, a lot of people in the world today. And I wanted to tell my story about something. But first, I say all of that about the heaviness of these things because suicide is something that is becoming not a norm, but we're hearing about it a lot these days. And it all stems from anxiety and worry and doubt, fear, and all this stuff. Social media plays a part in this because we have access to so much information and we can see the lives of people every single day that are seeming like they're very successful and they're accomplishing so much, and then we start to evaluate our lives and look at our lives and feel like we're not doing anything. So instead of looking at social media as something that can be very positive in our lives and motivate us, we get into this state of anxiety and worry and doubt and fear and, oh, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, our life should be here by now, we should have this by now. And that's not the case. Now, where you are in life is your choice. Like, it's a direct reflection of the choices that you make in life. And I can say that it is a difficult thing when you see, not difficult, but wherever your perspective is and your mindset can make it difficult for you when you see people flourishing or what seems to be their life that they're portraying as success, because we don't have a lot of people on social media that talks about the hard part or talks about the process or talks about their failures. Everybody is showing these nice photos and edited pictures and pictures of themselves and videos of themselves at networking events and meeting with big people and all kind of stuff. And as a mom and a wife and as a woman, period, I was at a place where it was like a negative thing, and I would be like, oh my God, my life should be this, my life should be that. So what social media could be used as a tool to cause us to become stagnant or complacent. And then we just don't do anything because we don't know what to do, because we're looking at everybody else and what they're doing. So I say that because I wanted to tell my story of how I attempted to commit suicide and take myself out, which in all reality, I wasn't really going to do it, but I tried it. Now, social media was not a big thing at the time because I was at this time maybe 16 or 17. I was still in high school. At this time, I was depressed. I was going through a lot of things, like with my parents, a lot of stuff that I didn't understand. I felt isolated. I felt lonely. I felt like I just didn't know what to do with my life. Because I was going through things with my parents and I wasn't being allowed to be me and be free. I wasn't receiving love that I needed and all kind of stuff. So I was seeking all of that validation in my parents. And my boyfriend, which is now my husband, he was there for me. Like, I was going through a lot as a teenager. Man, now that I think about it, I've never talked about my teenage years. I always talk about what I've gone through in the past 10 years in my 20s, but I never talked about what I've experienced from like teenage up until I reached my 20s. So yes, I made an attempt to commit suicide. I was just in this place. My mind was just destroyed, and I felt like there was thoughts for a while where I just felt like I wanted to take myself out. Now, it wasn't strong, but my attempt was taking myself out with pills. So I would I don't remember telling my boyfriend, but I don't even remember how he saw that that's what I was trying to do. But it was a thought. I don't think I ever really attempted it. Like, I would put the pills in my hand and I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it. But what's bad about this is the fact that it was a thought in my mind, and I thought, that that was my only way out of what I was going through. And my husband was there for me, and not saying that he saved me, but he saved me. He was there for me, and I didn't do it. Now, I only attempted this one time, but the thoughts were there. And that's why our mindsets are so important. And that's where the battle really is for us, is in our minds. Because our thoughts, like, if we don't learn to take control of them, if we don't learn to see things in a good, positive way, if we don't learn to seek God and remember his promises and remember why he created us and put us on this earth, we will allow negativity and the enemy and the devil and all this stuff around us to make us toxic and make us feel like we don't deserve to be here. Nobody loves me. Nobody wants me around. So these days it has become so much heavier. And this is a concern for me because now we read stories about young kids that are committing suicide, like under 13. Like, I was reading this article last week about suicide among the Black community, and I read in the article about two young girls. I think it was a girl and a boy, or two girls, but they were like 12 and 13 years old, and they were being bullied at school. One was being bullied at school because of her lifestyle, so she was being teased. I believe that that was the case for both of them. And they hung themselves. So can you imagine at 12 and 13 years old, when you really don't have any cares or worries, you haven't reached that point where you really have to worry about your life and, what you're going to do as an adult and all this stuff. Can you imagine that their hearts and their minds were so heavy at 12 and 13 years old that the only way that they thought that they could escape was bullying? Now, this plays a big part as a mother because we have to pay attention to our kids. I was just talking to a friend of ours who is struggling right now, and he's blaming, like, he's a father and he's going through a lot, with his daughter's mother, and he is really struggling in his mind. And some days he'll talk about taking himself out. Some days he'll talk about, it's just crazy. But as parents, we have to be there for our children. So if we can't control our emotions and our mindset as parents, how will we be able to be there for our children, be aware of what's going on with them, know when something is wrong with them, know when they're depressed, know when they're feeling a heaviness, or knowing that they're going through something? How can we be there for our kids, which is the next generation, if we can't control ourselves? So as a teenager, for me, when I had thoughts of committing suicide and attempted to make attempts to commit suicide, my parents weren't there for me emotionally and mentally. They did not, love me and communicate with me and make sure that I was okay. And it's important to do that. Now, what was my parents going through at the time? I don't know, mentally, emotionally, what were they going through? But they did not know how to be there for me as a child. So it's just important. Like, the way that suicide is so heavy these days, and the way that depression is just taking over our young generation, and even the men, like, and women. Like, my husband was telling me something about men commit suicide more than women, which I have to look that up, like, statistics. But and he was explaining to me like what the situation was. It was like about relationships and stuff like that, and men go commit suicide because of relationships and things. But I was explaining to him like, this is why it's important for us to make sure that we are mentally stable, that we are emotionally well, because then we can pinpoint and be aware of what's going on with ourselves. Then we can take the proper steps to do what we have to do to take care of ourselves. So then that gives us room to be there for our children emotionally and mentally, to make sure that our children, that we are raising emotionally and mentally well children. It requires prayer. It requires constant personal development. It requires seeking God always, because we cannot do this in our own strength. Like, we have to have people around us. We have to be in an environment where people are striving to be well. I know growing up, I grew up in church. I'm a pastor's kid. So there was just a lot of burden on me to be perfect. And I knew at that time, at 16 and 17 years old, that I could not be that, especially if I didn't have parents that were motivating me to be all that I can be, to stay true to who I am, to be authentic, to help me understand that I don't have to conform to this world, to help me understand that I don't have to do what everyone else is doing. I don't have to be who everyone else is. I don't have to do what all of the children are doing. I didn't have that growing up, so I didn't have that connection. So there was a void that needed to be fulfilled, and I wasn't getting that. And even though I grew up as a pastor's kid, I never had anyone to talk to. I couldn't even go to my own parents, who is a pastor and a first lady. So if I'm not getting what I need at home, because that's where it starts, where else am I going to go? Where else am I going to go? And then, you feel like, I grew up also in an environment where, as Black folks, we are told to not to talk about things that goes on in our home. We were taught not to be personal. We were taught not to show our emotions and express ourselves as young kids. It was do this or else. Go pray about it. That was it, and that's the problem with Black community today. We're told to go pray. Prayer is the first step, but just to pray and leave it alone is not it. Like, you have to have people around you to talk to. You have to have people around you to guide you, to give you wisdom. And I didn't have that. So I never talked about this story, but I went through it. And my mind was not in a good place at the time at such a young age. So, moms, I just want to encourage you to work on your emotional wellness. That is a part of your glow up. Work on your emotional wellness. Learn to take control of your mind. Learn to control your emotions. Learn to understand where everything is coming from. Like, what seeds were planted for you to feel like you're depressed, or you're mentally unstable, or anxiety, or whatever it is. Like, learn to pinpoint where it came from. And most of the time it comes from childhood. So you think back on your childhood and you just reflect on what you went through, what was happening at the time, who was in your life at the time, what happened, what didn't happen, what did you need at the time, because these are the things that we can give to our children. So for instance, for me, like I said, I needed my parents because I didn't have anyone else. And because I grew up in a home where I was a pastor's kid, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't express myself. I wasn't encouraged to express myself. I didn't receive the love that I needed at the time. So in a sense, it was kind of like I was growing up by myself, kind of. Like, I couldn't go to my parents in my home, so trying to find people outside. I was just going through a lot because my parents weren't there for me, so I kind of took on this persona of, if my parents don't show me much love, then nobody else is going to do that for me. So where do I go? Who do I go to? Because I don't feel anybody is going to be for me, because that's what I was receiving in my home. So because I know now what the issue was and what was going on around me and who was around me, now I can put the proper steps in place to make sure that my children are okay. So now I can make sure that I speak positivity to my children, read the Bible, pray, ask them questions, ask them how they feel, ask them, just get personal with them, because at the end of the day, they're young, but they are their own person. Like, I'm not trying to raise them up to be who I want them to be, because that's how I grew up. I was told I should go do this. So when I all throughout high school and when I graduated, my dad wanted me to go in the Coast Guard. So guess what I did? Went in the Coast Guard. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to sing. I wanted to write music. I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I was not encouraged to do that. So I felt like the right way to make my parents love me and give me something that they never gave me was to do everything that they wanted me to do. And I struggled with that from a young child up into my young adult life throughout my 20s. That was my struggle, because I wanted to receive love and receive things that I never got from them. So I felt like pleasing them and saying yes to everything. Even as an adult, a married woman with children, I was still so focused on pleasing my parents because I wanted to get that love that I never got. I wanted them to fulfill this void, filling this void that was so empty for me, because I was still looking for them to give me something that I needed as a child. Then I had to learn that they can't give that to me. Only I can make myself happy. Only I can be mentally well and emotionally well by making sure I take care of myself, my mindset, my physical health, my emotional health, making sure that I am stable in that area. And then now I know what to do to give to my children. So I just wanted to talk about that really quick. It's been something on my heart because I have been, paying close attention to my family and focusing on emotional wellness this month and the emotional wellness of my children. So there has been a lot of inner healing and self-awareness going on. And then I pay attention to my husband and things that he do. I ask a lot of questions. I dig deep into our marriage, and look back on things that we've done and we've been doing. I pay attention to the way that I parent. So asking a lot of questions is very important. And I must say that it is working very well. It takes time and you have to go day by day. But we have to do this because suicide is so heavy these days, and it hurts my heart to know that young kids at 7, 8, 9 years old, 12, 13 years old, even teenagers and young adults are killing themselves. The fact that they are going and they are killing other people and then taking themselves out, that is a problem. That is a problem that we have to pay more attention to. It would hurt my heart to know that, my kid committed suicide, because that's something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life, because I would be thinking about what could I have done differently? What did I do? What did I miss? And most of the time when it's like that and then parents have to deal with their kids committing suicide, it puts them in a place of being mentally and emotionally unstable, because now they have to think about all of the things that they did not do for their kids. Think about the fact that they weren't there for them or whatever. And I'm not saying that that's always the case, because you have children that grew up in a good household. Their parents were there for them. Like, they didn't have no struggles mentally, emotionally, but they still struggled by themselves and still took themselves out, overdosed. All of that stuff is suicide. It's not just about using a gun to take yourself out. It's overdoses, it's addiction. Like, we find things to fulfill voids and emptiness through drugs and alcohol and even porn, and just people become addicted to certain things, or depression, anxiety, worry, fear, and you go into this place of darkness. So we're not only committing physical suicide, but emotional suicide, mental suicide. which affects everything around us. So when I talk about suicide too, it's not just about the fact that you're physically gone. You could be mentally gone too. Like, you're here but you're not here, and that's suicide as well. So moms, we have to get a grip on this. If you're married, you have to get a grip on it for your marriage. You have to cover your husband. You have to implement some things for your family, cover your children every day, not every other day, or when you realize there's a problem. Like, we have to be paying attention all of the time. So my prayer is for healing in these areas, especially among our community, among the young people, healing in everything, mental healing first, and then it becomes emotional healing, and then it trickles down into everything else, and every area of your life can be healed. So that's my little story, plus encouragement and all that stuff, and just where my heart is right now. It hurts. It hurts. Like, my heart hurts for young people, because I look at my children, and we didn't have access to all of this stuff that they have access to today. We went outside and played. We didn't have any worries. We had friends. We just went outside and played, till the lights came on. But now kids they got YouTube and social media and Roblox and Fortnite and games and all this stuff. And their minds are being occupied by things that really are not good. But it's up to us to get control of this and do what we have to do to make sure that our family is well. So remember to glow, remember to affirm yourself, remember to do what makes you happy, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. Like, right now, I'm tired, I need to sleep, but I'm not going to. But let me know how you feel about this topic. Chime in, comment below, go follow me on Instagram at the Mommy Glow Up. Send me a message. Like, talk to me if you have any questions. Like, you want to know what I've been doing to make sure that my family is emotionally well. Reach out and let me know. I will share that eventually, and post a video talking about what I've been doing and how my journey started to emotional wellness, so we can heal families, because families are being broken apart by these things, because we're not seeking healness and holding on to things that are becoming generational, that is sabotaging generations. And that is not what God wants for us. So until next time, remember to reach out to me and let me know how you feel about this.